Hello everyone. So in this project we're going to build a study group with Django. So it has some logged in users. So they would have enrolled in some groups and they can share information like files, images, description, anything related to the group. And then other users can also share and we can download it as well. So users can add comments, join and leave groups, filter categories, filter groups based on categories, and so on. So I'd like to show you a quick demo of what we are building. So this is the login page and we also have a register page. Okay, so I'm just going to log in with this test user that I've already created an account for. Okay, so this is my home page. So it now has only groups that I have already enrolled, whereas this groups page have the groups that I did not enroll. So whenever I have a group that I did not enroll, it will just ask me to join. Whereas here I can see the groups I've enrolled. So I can open this group. Okay, so this is the group, and in the side we have just all enrolled course just to go to other groups quickly. Okay, so here there are multiple users. So for example, this user has a profile like this and they have shared some information. So this is the title, description, and they have shared a PDF and also some image. Okay, so this is a post. So there are multiple posts shared by this user and the current user also shared something. So these are just test. Okay, so whenever we click on this profile, we can see the profile page of that user. Okay, and for example, this user has some profile, so we can add additional information if we want, but I've decided to just show their username, email, and that's it. So we can also open our profile. So here we just have some information, but so since this is our profile, we can just edit it if we want. Okay, so I can just change the profile picture. So this is the default profile picture, and yeah, so we can just also filter the groups. For example, I have this group which has multi categories, science and startup. Okay, so here is the group that I've enrolled in both of these groups. So if I leave this group and if I come back and refresh this, we can see that it's showing me to join. So since I clicked on the science category, it shows both. So these are the only two groups that has science as their category, whereas startup, this is the only group that has them. Okay, so I did not have any. So each group is only going to have few, yeah, few categories, because I did not create much categories, but we can create if we want. Okay, so that's it what we are going to build. Okay, so and whenever we try to open a group that we did not join, it won't allow us. And we can add comments as well. So we can just add a comment. So for example, test comment. So I've added them and it will be visible at last. So in order to upload files, so we have to share some title, test, description, and I can upload an image or a user file. So for example, this document, and if I submit it, so it shows me this document. Okay, so that's what we are going to build in this app. So I'm just going to provide you an extra about about the project. So every operations, as you can see, the users can join groups, create posts, and keep track of the groups that they are already enrolled in. So these are all performed by basic CRUD operations on the database. So we're just creating, reading, updating, and deleting stuff. Okay, and filtering operations are based on categories. So every group has some multiple categories or single categories associated with them. So we're just performing another type of queries that allows us to get the categories of that, yeah, particular groups only. So and features I've shown you: login and registration page. Users have their profile page. We can view other profiles. Users can leave and join groups. There are multiple category groups. We can filter groups, post images and files, add comments, display others profile, and so on. So I'm just going to walk you through how we'll be covering this project. First, we'll be covering the basics of Django for just a bit. We need to get familiar with the MVT architecture. And next, we'll implement the login and registration system. So every page is going to have a login. So there's not a single page that the user can view without logging in, because there's home, groups probably users can actually join, but they eventually need to require to log in before they can actually see the group. And next we'll be implementing the ER diagram for our application. So this is going to be the most important part of the tutorial, because we're just going to build that ER diagram, that model from the ER diagram, and you will just perform queries from the tables. Okay. And next we'll talk about the groups implementation. So we'll perform all the posts and adding, joining group, and so on. And filtering groups, finally we'll just filter groups based on categories and other things. So in order to for us to run the project, we need to have Python installed, obviously, and virtual environment is highly recommended because it helps us to keep our projects repositories in a, our packages in a single created environment. And Django we need to install Pillow, because we'll be needing to use profile pictures. We are using image field, right? So image field requires Pillow to operate on. So up next we'll be covering the basics of Django, and right after that we'll be implementing the login and registration system, and we'll be going through from that on. Thank you. So in this video we're just going to cover the basic installations and the basics of Django. So first let me start by installing the virtual environment I told you in my last video. So this is important to keep the projects in an organized way. Say if you have a Python project which has built with Python 3.3 and you want to create another project which requires Python 3.8. Now if you install the Python 3.8 globally, the Python 3.3 project may not be able to run anymore. So it's like the code is broken. For it to run, you may need to install the Python 3.3 packages and so on. So in order to avoid those kind of circumstances, we will create an environment, and inside those environment it is going to install the packages for a particular project only. So it will help to maintain a lot of projects that we have. So I'm just going to cd in my project folder and create a new folder called demo. And here I will just create a new environment. So pip python -m virtual env, and the name of the environment can be whatever you want. I'm just going to call it environment. Okay, the environment is created, and you can see it just created a folder here. So now to activate the environment, just need to navigate to the scripts, and we're just going to activate the bat file. So activate.bat is a file inside environment and scripts. This is going to enter as is, and you can see that we are in this environment for now. So the environment has been created in this step, and we are just activating the environment in this step, and it is indicated by this starting. And in order to deactivate, we can just run the command with deactivate.bat, and it will remove that, and we are no longer in that environment. So we're just going to activate this environment, and while in this environment we're just going to install Django. So I'm just going to install Django 3.1.5 in this video, but I recommend using Django 2.2 or above. It's because Django 2.2 is known to be around, it will be in the scope for at least 5 years, but I hope Django 3.1.5 will be too. If you want to install any particular Django version, you just provide the version like this and it will install it for you. So I'm just going to install mine as 3.1.5. Okay, so now we have Django installed. We can now start a Django project. So we have to use Django-admin start project, and we just give the name of the project here. So I'll just say demo project and hit install. So it will just create a folder called demo project, and I'm going to cd into this project. Let me open the same project in my atom, and let's see the file structure here. So e python project, and okay, so we need to make sure that we are in this manage.py directory, and as well as in the command prompt. You can see when I hit dir, you can see the manage.py. So we are just going to kind of work around it. So since we are in this, we created a project. Let's run the project to see what happens. So in order to run the project, we just say python manage.py and run server. We will create, like, we will work on this project by using this python manage.py, and we provide extra arguments, command line arguments like start app and so on. So it is going to run the project for now. So it says python manage.py and run server. So it is now running on this URL. So this is the local host at port 8000. So I can just copy it and paste it in my browser, and you can see that this shows the Django default page. So it says that our Django has been quite successfully installed, and we are just good to go. You can also use the URL by localhost and at port 8000, and it will just do the same here. So I'm just going to be using localhost colon 8000 for the entire project. Okay, so let's see the Django file structure for now. So manage.py is the actual main file in which it calls the main application and keeps it to run, but we won't be using any of these. And db.sqlite3 is the database that we will use for the project. So after I run this Django admin, it created a database project for me. And you can see that settings.py and urls.py, and we'll just go more of it later. But settings.py actually contains the apps project settings in overall. So a Django project contains several apps. Okay, there might be multiple apps within the same project. It helps to keep the project in an organized way. For example, I can have an app called users, and inside it I can manage all the login, logout, and managing the users logic and so on. And I can have another app for e-commerce where I can just add the logic for buying, selling, and stuff related to e-commerce. Okay, so apps provide those kind of functionalities where we will focus on a particular application and work on it. And it provides high reusability as well. We can use this apps created here in other projects or in other types in where we want. Okay, so let's start by creating an app now. So the server is running. Not to stop the server from running, you can use Control C or Command C. Okay, and I'm just going to create a new app. So I'll say python3 manage.py start app, and I'm just going to call it my app. So this is the name of the app. We can create according to our project, but since this is a demo video, I'm just going to start a simple app here called my app. And you would have noticed this folder called my app is created here, and it contains files like admin.py, models.py, tests, views, and so on. We'll be mainly focusing on models and views. Okay, so Django follows MVT architecture. So M stands for model, V for views, and T for template. Models.py file is actually where we provide the database logic. We don't actually provide any SQL commands. We're just going to create the database tables in Python only. And it's actually very easy to create databases, and it's actually managed. The Python Django framework manages it very well. We're just going to use models.py for that, so where every table will be a class and so on. And we covered the M, which is models, and V is the views. Here we will implement the actual logic for our applications. We're just going to use any kind of logic, matplot. So if I want to plot matplotlib, I can use it here. I can use science, yeah, scikit-learn, and other kind of Python project codes that we the logic will be actually residing in here. Okay, so we'll talk more about on this later. And T stands for template. It's just the HTML file that we are just going to show on the application. So template actually can render uh, something called Django template language. We'll be able to use Python, a bit of Python code there, but it's quite a bit different. We'll talk about that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just going to use the euros.py for this project. Okay, so a project contains euros.py, an app can contain urls.py as well, but I don't have any urls.py here. I'll just create it in a bit later on. Okay, so you can see a path called admin here. It means that whenever your user after this localhost 8000, whatever he types something here, so if it is an admin, we're just going to route him to this particular logic. Okay, so since I have admin, it'll just be, yeah, it's provided by Python by default. We'll just be implementing more of these. So I can have another path like this, and which means it just says this page. Okay, so right now this page is hosted by the Django default page, and I didn't provide any logic for it to here, and I did not save it, and I did not run it actually. So whenever this means like whenever the user hits only the domain name, which is localhost, and if we actually, yeah, if we have actually deployed the project, whatever the domain name, the default kind of the home page will be provided by this logic. Okay, so localhost 8000 will be removed, and whatever comes after it will be handled by this logic. So I'm just going to handle this logic in the my app that I created. Okay, so I'm just going to use include. This might feel a bit strange for now, but I'll just show you in a bit what we are exactly doing. So include my app dot urls. Okay, so before that I forgot to mention an important thing. Whenever we hit start app command, we just need to go to settings.py as soon as possible, because we might forget, and we should include this app inside this installed apps list. Okay, so I created an app called my app. I'm going to type here dot apps dot my app config. So it's just the name of the app, the first letter is capitalized followed by a config, or you can just copy this last bit from this class name in the apps.py. So this is the class name, and that's what we are exactly providing here. So we are just actually saying to the Django that we have a project and we created an app called my app. I want to include this app to this Django project. That's what we are exactly saying. Without this, Django will not consider this application. So what I'm doing is, whenever there's a URL called localhost 8000 without any like admin or anything so on, I'm just going to like forward this to my urls.app. So right now we're just in the project's URLs, but apps can contain their own URLs. So I'm going to create urls.py, and it should be exact this name of the file. Okay, here I'm just going to get this. Okay, so let me just go to views.py for now. So views.py, as I said, it contains the logic for our application. So I'm going to create a function called home here, and it will take a request object, and I'm going to return something, an HTML file, an HTML document property. So I'm going to say from django.http import http response with h and t capitalized here. I'm going to return an http response. Inside it, I'm just going to say hello world. So you know HTML how it goes, like h1 tag and hello world, and I'm just closing this HTML tag. Okay, so what I'm trying to actually achieve is I'm just going to render this HTML tag that says hello world to this URL. So whenever I hit this localhost 8000, it should display this hello world message. Okay, so it is in the views.py in hello world. So we just need to tell Django that what, yeah, that our URL should point to this views function. Okay, so right now you have transmitted the URL, you kind of passed the URL to app specifically. So we have this app. So whatever URL comes down with this, just going to forward it to apps. And then in the urls.py, I'm just going to, this is an app urls.py. So I'm just going to copy this code, the path. I don't need to include there, and I'm just going to paste it. Okay, and here I'm going to copy this list, but I won't be needing this admin and all because it's already taken care of by the main project. So here I'm just telling, let me import views now. So from dot import views. So what I'm telling is in this directory, which is the urls.py is here, right? And in the same directory there's a file called views.py, and from that I'm just going to, yeah, I'm just going to import views from this directory. Okay, and views contain a function called home, right? I've created a function called home and it will return a HTTP response, and I'm just going to use this views.home and I'll just provide a name here, users home. I'm sorry, my app home. This is because many apps can contain the same keyword like home. In order to differentiate the my apps home, I'm just going to say like my apps home. Yeah, it's not like compulsory, we can have any name we want, just to be specific enough. So up till here, what I've done is I've created a new app and included in my install app settings, and I've saved it. And in this main project app, I'm just saying whenever a URL contains an empty string after the local host, I'm just going to let the app, my app, take care of it. So my app.urls is going to take care of it from now. So after that, you'll just be coming here to this url.py here, and I'm just going to import views. What I'm saying is whenever a path like this without any string comes on, I'm just going to call this function views.home. Okay, so views.home, what it does is going to return an HTTP response that says h1 hello world. So if I save all of these and run this application now, python 3 manage.py run server. Oh, my app is not defined. It should be in a string, my bad. Okay, so it's just like a live server. So whenever I hit save on any of these major files, it will just reload the server itself. I don't need to like run it every time. But so now if I run it, you can see the hello world is displayed here. Okay, so that's how we are just going to render the HTML. But I'm not going to add HTML here, like it will be probably hundreds of lines and I don't want to mess the views. So for that I can say, yeah, what I can do is I'm just going to create an HTML file. So I'm not going to create an HTML file directly. There's a template, the hierarchy here. So inside this user, I mean my app, I'm just going to create a new folder called templates, and inside this template I'm just going to create an exact folder with the name of the app. So it should be like this, my app templates and again my app. And only in this folder I'm just going to create the new HTML file. I'm just going to call it test.html. Okay, and here I'm just going to use the HTML syntax and I'm going to use this is from the template. So here I render the HTML directly, but I just need to route this request whenever a request comes in. I'm just going to render an HTML page here. Okay, so right now this is not linked, so I can do is return render request. Yeah, I'll just talk about the request object in a bit. So this is residing, there's test.html residing in my app slash test.html. So you might be confused with this path, but by default the yeah the templates will be searched in this my app and templates, and here it will be searched. But in order to differentiate from many apps, I'm just going to create a new folder here, my app, and inside it I'm going to create test.html. It is just how Django recommends it. We can create it inside the templates directly without this folder, but it helps us to keep it organized. So what I'm saying is I'm going to pass this request object, and I'm using the HTML template which I've just shown here. So if I save it now and run this, yep, now it says this is from the template. Okay, so that's exactly how we're just going to build it. In order to avoid like hundreds of HTML lines of code and to maintain it easily, we're just going to do this. Okay, so with this in mind, up next we're just going to import the logic for our application, probably starting with models. Okay, so now we are going to implement the login and registration page. So before we do that, we need to create few users, at least one user, to actually test our login page, right? So I have this project set up in such a way that the name of the project is group, and I've created an app called group app. So in the last video, as I said, we would have got this group app and add it in the settings.py to install apps. Okay, so I do have this entire project ready, but I will go step by step on how I actually set it up. Okay, so first we need to create few migrations. So in order to actually store users, we need a database. So we have this database, but it's not set up yet. So in order to do that, we can do python manage.py make migrations. Okay, so what this command does is it will prepare a migration file, a folder. So in the group app, we have this migration folder, right? So whenever I hit the command, let me close this. So whenever I hit the command, it will actually make this migrations folder. So it will not actually create the database tables yet, but even though we don't, it will not create them. But Django does have some database tables by default. So that's the user table. So whenever I hit this command, this Python is going to run a migrations, and it will save it in the folder like this. Okay, this migration is actually essential. It's because it's not actually going to set up the store database yet. Like it will actually, we can revert back to the previous changes if we want. So those kind of changes we can do it here. So in order to actually make the changes, we have to run the command called manage.py migrate. So this goes usually hand in hand. So after executing this command, we'll actually use this migrate command. Okay, so after this is run, I don't have any migrations to apply because I have this entire project ready, but you will receive few migrations. So once the database is actually set up, we can actually create a new user. So with this shell, so I'm going to create a new user within this shell itself. Okay, I'm going to call it the user as, we can name it, but this user is going to be a super user. Okay, a super user is one who has access to all the database tables actually. So this this user has access to Django admin. So Django admin is the place where we can actually make changes to the database and so on. So test I'm giving a fake email, and password is testing at 123, testing at 123. Okay, Okay, so now we have this database ready and we have this user created. So after this is done, I'm going to run the server. So python manage.py run server, and we are going to have a look at the Django admin. Okay, so Django admin is the default site that Django has created for us. Okay, so we did not create anything. Django provided this part. So as soon as we create a super user, we can actually log in. So it's the new user, and the password is testing at 123. Okay, so you won't be actually seeing these these tables, but by default you can access these tables. Okay, so don't worry about it now. We'll actually go through every one of these. So for now we can use these user tables. So user table contains the list of users that we have already created. So I have two users already created, and now I create a new one. So this user I created via the register page for our app. So it does not have a staff user, but the one I create with the super user command like that will actually make our staff user. And we can also delete the user from this table, right? Even we can delete super user. So that kind of power we have from Django admin by creating super user. Okay, so since we have this ready, we can now go to our our app. Okay, so we have this register page and also a login page. Okay, so what we are going to do now is I'm going to have this, I'm going to explain this from the register page and so on, not this one. So whenever the URL requests this gets this request from our website, a browser, for example the register. So we are going to media, group euros.py. So first, whenever a request comes in, it will search in the euros.py. So you might not have any of these. Actually, you can ignore everything. So we're just going to need this include, and we're just going to include this app. So our app name is group app, right? And we are just going to route to this URL. Okay. So whenever a request comes in without anything like this register, just like this localhost or the admin, it is equivalent to this. Okay, so anything followed by the localhost, so for example I type / and register, so this and all matches here, and that's how we got this admin, right? So this matches to. Okay, so we're just ignoring this localhost or the domain name, and we are just asking whatever the request after it is coming, we are having any views for that. Okay, so whenever there's no just the domain name, you're just going to route it to the group app.urls, which is having another euros.py in the same fashion, but we will go through that later. Okay, so now we're just going to focus on this register, login and logout. Okay, I'll come to profile actually when we are creating profiles, but you can safely ignore everything. So in order for this to work, we need to have this register and this include for this. Okay, so let me walk through. So whenever this register route comes in, so we're just saying register route. Okay, so now next we are just saying which function to execute whenever this request comes in, right? So I have this group app, so I'm importing from this group app, I'm importing this views file. So this is the views file which is in this group app, and I'm calling it as group app view, just the name. So in this group app view, there's a function called register. So let me open it for you. And we don't need to worry about this as well. So we just need to have this render imported and redirect we want to actually using it, but that's it. So what I'm saying is, so whenever this register request comes in, just going to execute this function. Okay, just a simple function that should accept this request argument. Request as a parameter. Okay, so we're just executing this function, and afterwards everything will be taken care of by this function here. Okay, so we're just providing name equal to register. So this is what we will reference from, for example, HTML files or while using other types. So we can actually provide the URL directly, or it is good to have names. Okay, so that's just a name. Okay, so how this register page works. So by default, I mentioned that user table comes with Django by default. Okay, so Django is going to have a database, and inside it has a default table called user. Okay, and it has fields like username, password, and password confirmation fields. So what we are going to do is, in this views.py, I have created this form. Okay, so I'm just creating this type of form, okay, with the help of user. So user has these fields, user table has these fields, but in order to actually render it out as a form, I'm going to need this need a form. Okay, so I'm going to create a new file called forms.py, which I already created here. Okay, so we can safely ignore everything from here, and also these two and yeah, this I don't need, and this also I don't need. Okay, so the default table provided by Django is this Django contrib.auth.models import user. So this table contains fields like, attributes like username, password, and confirmation. So actually there are many more fields, but we are just using 3 of these fields. So I'm going to create a user creation form, right? So Django, it has a form called user creation form, and I'm kind of extending that form. Okay, so this is just my form. I can name it whatever I want. I have this user registration form, but it should extend this Django form, and this is called a model form. So that means there is a table called user, and it has columns like username, password, and confirmation. So we are just going to use that table as a reference. Okay, and we are providing fields, which fields to display in the form. So this is the form, and it will display the fields called password and password. So these are the field names that are actually available in this user table. So we should provide whatever this table has. Actually, this table has a lot of other fields. For example, this underscore, if you print underscore all, you can see that the user table, every attributes that the user table has. So it has these last login, super status, groups, and so on. But in order to create a form, for a user, we need actually three things: username, password 1, and password 2. Okay, that's just enough for us. So that's why we are saying from this user table, we will need just these 3 fields. Okay, so this is the field name. So if I now refresh, we have this. I'm sorry, I did not save it. So if I now refresh, we can see there's only, it's not refreshing. Okay, it's still reloading, but it'll say only those 3 fields that we saw earlier. Okay, so but the label is actually different. So the label name will be actually different, but the field name is kind of this username, password 1, and password 2. Okay, so that's what we are actually building. So whenever we fill out this form and we call that, and we save this form, it will actually save it to the user table as well. So that's the specialty of it. So now I have this form. I have to find a way to make it render in this HTML template. So in the views.py, I have this tiny little function. Okay, so there are 2 scenarios possible. That's why I have this else, if and else condition. So for the first time, when the user is in the login page, I'm going to render out an empty form. Okay, so next the user will type some information and hit the sign up, but this time it will actually go to the same URL. But this time it will be containing information about the username, password, and password confirmation. So we are just going to get all the information from that. Okay, so those are the 2 scenarios. First, we'll just render out this empty form. Second, we'll get the user inputted values, and we're just going to render it in our save it in our forms. Okay, so first time, this is the first scenario. So I have this form creation, right? So I imported this form. So from dot forms import star, and from dot models import everything. Okay, so models.py does not have anything yet, but it's just an empty folder. We don't have much, but we are just working with this form. Okay, but we will implement the models.py later. Okay, that being said, I am creating an instance of this form, and I'm passing this as a dictionary. So this is the key, and this is the this is the variable name. So in the HTML file, we will actually reference this the key name, not this name. So but I've provided both of the same. Usually that's the case. So you can name this whatever you want, but in the HTML file you should use this form. Okay, and it's actually quite easy. So if I open the register.html, I need to have a form. Okay, so ignore everything this for now. It's just for template inheritance that I have the already navigation bar built, right? So I'm kind of reusing the same code, but I'll come to it a bit later. But this is the important thing. So a form, actually this code is a bit large, but most of it is quite irrelevant. For example, this says if you already have an account, sign in. So this is just it, and this is just a field set to actually render it well. So the main thing is we have a form and we have this method equal to post. So whenever we have a method equal to post, we have to provide this CSRF token. So that means I cannot, if I use any JavaScript code to attack the database, it will actually make the code not too exploitable. Okay, so Django will take care of the security reasons. So whenever we have this method equal to post, we need to have the CSRF token, and Django will take care of everything. Okay, so and here I don't have this. Okay, so here I just need to render this U form. So this is the U form that I passed from the views. Okay, it's because I have it in group app register.html, right? So that's why in the group app, I mean in the templates in the group app, we have this register.html. Actually we don't, yeah, we'll be fine even if we don't have these kind of details, but we need to have form, CSRF token, and this U form. So in order to, so this is the Django template language. So in order to reference the key value, I mean key that we got from the dictionary, we need to use it in curly braces. Okay, so that's why I have this U form. So you don't need to add this crispy, this is just for beautification of the form. So if I don't have this crispy, it'll just be like an ugly form. So that's why we have this crispy. Okay, so we'll implement this crispy later on, but for now all I'm doing is rendering the form. So this will take care of everything that will the form has rendered. So whenever I hit the submit button, so we need to have a button and we call it type submit. So we cannot have a link attribute, but we need to have a button attribute. Okay, and whenever we click the sign up button, the request.post is going to get all the details. So now we'll be executing this if condition. Okay, so here we are creating the same form. Okay, but this time we'll actually passing the request.post. So request contains all the values that the user has inputted. Okay, so it is of the form, it will be in this called request.post of username and request. So it's like a dictionary. Now to access that we'll be using request.post of password 1 and so on. Okay, so this is exactly what we're using. We are actually rendering the form, but this time we are filling the data to the form. So this data will be filled as the form. Okay, so and if we are saying if the form is valid, so if the form is valid means it will take care of every detail that we have. So if I sign in now, it will say that the two password did not match. Okay, it's because the form is not valid. And if I create a name for existing user, it will show that error. So those kind of details will be taken care of by the is valid form. So if the form is valid, we are actually saving it. Okay, so this detail will be given to this username, password 1 and password 2, and it will actually create a user instance and it will save it in the database. Okay, that's it. And we are just saying, we are just, after the user has been filled, we are just displaying a message. Okay, it's actually a bootstrap message. So if I create a new user, so this is the green kind of pop-up for the user that the account has been created for username. So username is, I got that from uform. So uform is actually HTML data and we are just getting the username. So that's why I got this username, and I'm just using this messages.success. So I actually imported this messages here. Okay, so that's why I have it, and this will be actually rendered in HTML, but we don't need to, we'll cover this later on. Okay, so actually this I wanted it to go to profile, but this asked me login is because For the profile form, I actually need a login. So this is the decorator I have. So whatever page we need to have the login, we're just going to use this decorator. Okay. So we're just going to import from Django.contrib. Yeah, we're just going to import this login decorator. So even if I don't log in and go to hardcode this URL called profile, it will just ask me to come to this login page, and then only it will go to this profile. So now I can just go to this, and it will go to my profile. Okay. All right. So that's how the register page works. So next we'll implement the login. Okay. So register page we implemented the view by ourselves, but since login is going to be similar, Django provides us a default login view. So we can use it if we want, or you can create things like this and we can do it. Okay. So we have this login view. So whenever we have this request, we're just going to execute auth views.login. So this is just a Django view. So I'm going to import it from this Django view, from django.contrib.auth, import views as auth views. Okay. So in this auth views, there's a class called login view. But for a register page, we just gave it a function, right? But for class view, we need to give .as view. Okay. So if it was a register, or a function view, we would just use like this. But since it's class, we need to give as view, and we need to provide this template name. We did not write any view for the function to execute. For example, I did not have def login, right? Because Django provided it on its own. But while implementing this register, I actually gave it a template to render. So whenever this page comes, I'm going to execute this HTML file. Render this HTML file. But since I don't have this login view, I need to say where the login page is. Okay, the login page will be, so I need to give it as template name, and here I give it. Okay, and same for logout. So in login.html, I just have the same form. So just like how I created this new form and make it as a dictionary key here, likewise Django actually created this login form by default, and we are just it has named this key as form. Okay, so I named my form as uform in the registration page, but it has this form. Okay, so we're just going to render it. Actually, there's no difference between this login and HTML page, just some information. And if you already have an account, if you need an account, just create an account. Whereas in register, if you already have an account, just sign in, and those are the common information. But everything else is changed. So we're just rendering this form, and that's how it prints it. So it will take care of everything. I can log in with this test user, and it will take care of authentication in the background. Okay, so that's what we're actually doing. And okay, so I just talked about the login decorator. Okay, so before that, let's go to settings.py. In the main app, project settings.py. So this is the login, and this is the home page that it brought me after I logged in. So if you remember, I logged in with this test user, and it got me to this home page. Okay, not to profiles, not to groups or any other, but home page. So I have this two variables called login URL and login redirect URL. So this will be for login decorator, so I'll come to it in a bit, but we're just focusing on login redirect URL. So if you are just accessing this login page, okay, not next equal to, but login page, and whenever after I logged in, it will actually route me to the home page. So home, I actually gave it in apps urls.py. So I have this path as home, named as home. Okay, so it will execute this views.home. So that's why whenever I logged in, it showed me, redirected to me this home page. Okay, but this one is for the decorator. So I mentioned that login required decorator will be using some login. Okay, so whatever view I have this login decorator, so if I want to access this view, it will actually make me to login. But we don't need to have for register page, groups page, right? So that's why if I have this group list, I guess. Okay, so it will, yeah, group actually needs user in my view, but okay. So I don't need my login for register because that will be silly if a user has to register if we logged in. So how does this login page know where my login URL is? Right? If I try to access profile, it will give me this login page, but we have to tell Django where the login page is. So that's why in the settings.py we have this login URL. Okay. So even though we have this URL patterns like login and name of your login, some users might prefer like sign in, and so Django does not know where to look for. So that's why in the settings of PY I have to mention it. If we don't actually do it, it will search for account/login. Okay. So if I go to profile now, it will not actually come because it is searching for login in accounts folder and login, but we don't have any accounts app or anything. So we are just going to override this default behavior by saying that I'm going to use my own login page from this. Okay. So that's how the login is implemented actually. So logout view is nothing. I mean, everything is taken care of by the Django. I need to have just this. Sorry, in the templates I have this login logout page. I'm just saying you are less logged out, and I'm providing a link to login. So now to provide the link, we have to provide this kind of tag. So this is a type of URL, and we are just providing the name of the URL. So the name of the URL, as I mentioned, will be this. Okay. So since we have this login, logout, and yeah, this page is ready. Let's just talk about the navigation bar. Okay. So when the user is logged in, I mean logged out, he will see register and login. Whereas if the user is actually logged in, you'll see things like profile, groups, logout, and those kind of things. Okay, the navigation bar is changed. So I find this time to actually explain the HTML detail. Okay. So let me close everything. So I have this register HTML and I have this base.html. So this base is the first, it's my actually HTML directory. So here I have all the body tags, navigation tabs, and so on. So I have this is called template inheritance. So this extends from, so the register page I don't need to provide any navigation bar repeated code again, right? So that's why Django provides this kind of extending method. So I'm using this base.url, base.html. Inside this I don't have any kind of register page or HTML and so on. This will be just the base. So it will just render this navigation bar, the background, and so on. But everything else is different for different pages. Okay. So in the base.html I have these things. So in the navigation, yep. Okay, I have this block content, right? So this is where every page is going to differ. Up to this, every page is going to have this details and also the every details. So there is a register page also has the pages I showed you, the navigation bar and the footer. I mean, it's not footer, just the bootstrap scripts. Okay. So we have this block content, and we're just going to implement all this register function here. So if I go to use this register function, it is kind of like we are just cutting the code and pasting it between this. Okay, so it is quite kind of equivalent to that, but it's quite different. But that's what happens. So we're just going to override this block content. Okay, so whatever page is using it, it will extend from this. So base HTML, and it will differ from this block content. So login page, for example, it will have a different block content. Logout page will have a different block content. It will be something like this. Okay, it extends from group app based on HTML. So we're just going to give that. Okay, so and now we're just going to talk about the bootstrap, I mean, sorry, the static files. So the static files are files like JS files, JavaScript files, CSS files, which will be downloaded by the client and the browser will actually render it. Okay, so we have this file. So everything is just CSS file. My browser has downloaded and it is rendering. So it is called client-side files. So there's a static files, and we have another type of files, and they are files like uploaded by user. For example, user profile picture and user upload some documents, and those are called media files. So now we have just using this load static. So now to access the static files, I need to provide this tag called load static. Okay, and I can use the CSS files like this. For example, yeah, I think I would have, yeah, in this CSS file I have the static. So CSS is a static file, and we are just saying CSS slash main.html. So I have these files in my main project in the static folder. Okay, so whenever I do the static command, it will search for the static folder. So here it will search inside this, not in the outside but inside. So inside this I have this folder called CSS, and there lies my main.html. So if you want to have any images, I just say images slash that image name dot jpeg or something. Okay, so here's where my static files lie. So we need to say where the actually static files will be saved. Okay, likewise I have this media files. So this will contain all the profile picture that the user is uploading, documents from the post, and so on. So I'm going to settings.py, and I'm going to actually do this. So the main aim of providing static files, actually, of course, we can hard code this URL, like for example slash static slash css slash main.html. Okay, of course we can do it, but the thing is, we are actually running the server on Django deployment server. So this is kind of like a local server, right? But whenever we deploy it in the cloud, for example, we will actually take Apache to take care of it. So Apache or Nginx, those kind of server will actually take care of getting these files. So in order to say, yeah, those kind of servers should know where the files, right? So if I say like slash something by hardcoding, Django development environment may know, but the servers will not know. So for that we have to provide this static files and media files. Okay. So here I'm saying that the static URL will be slash static. So this is the place where the files will be searched, and here is the place where the files will be stored as well. So that's why I have the static folder, and I mentioned this will be the URL of the static folder, and also likewise for the media. Okay, so I'm just having this media folder, and inside it will be uploaded. So that's how we are going to do it. And while deploying, we can just run the command called python manage.py collect static. Okay, so this command will run in the, for example, the cloud server Linux system of, for example, and it will collect all the static files, and it will let the Apache know where to find all these files. Okay, so that's how. So in order to actually use that, we need to load static wherever we are trying to use the static files. So if we use in the register HTML, we need to provide here as well. Okay, so and now I'm just going to talk about the crispy forms. So as you can see, the register form were actually beautifully implemented, right? So for that we have to first install pip install Django crispy forms. Okay, so after this has been installed, we have to go to the settings.py and save it in the installed apps. So we have to mention the crispy forms in the installed apps. Don't forget this comma, and then we have to provide the template tag of which is going to use. So this mine is going to use a bootstrap 4. So we need to say that the crispy template tag equal to bootstrap 4, and wherever we are going to use, we need to load this crispy forms by saying load crispy form tags, and with this form we're just saying pipe. Yeah, this is the pipe operator, and we are just saying crispy. So this form will now have this crispy form. So that's how it's beautifully rendering. Okay, so that's a simple step for that. And finally I'm just going to show how the user has the green color notification, right? So now I created a user testing at 123. It will show me this. Wait a minute. Oh, I need not run this. So I will, yeah, this is the message, right? So in the messages, in the views, wait a minute, group app views.html. So here I have this messages dot success, and I'm just getting the username and getting this message. Okay, so we need to provide this request object. So how it is actually rendering it in HTML? So that's actually quite simple. So we have this tag called success, right? So I'm going to take this base.html. So whenever there's a message, so this is the message, right? So if messages, so we are going to iterate over the message, so there can be multiple messages and so on, and this is where it ends. So in for an end if, so here we are just providing alert and alert tag. Okay, so messages start tag is this one, this success. So it will provide a green color kind of display, right? And there are many, like I think alert danger, alert info, I think it will be blue color, and alert warning, and those will provide these kind of, so it will be in the bootstrap documentation. So we're just getting this tag as success, so alert success will provide a green color page, and we're just showing the message. Okay, that's how it is actually implementing this message. Okay, so finally one more thing is, so how does the navigation bar change on if the user is authenticated or not? So by default, the base.html or HTML files contain this user attribute. Okay, so we are just having this is authenticated attribute. So user object has its is authenticated method or attribute. So if the user is logged in, we are going to display him these three options: profile, groups, logout. But if the user is not logged in, we are going to create this register. Okay, so it's because if the condition fails, the HTML these tags will not be created, these elements will not be created. If the condition, yeah, if the condition that user has logged in fails, this will be not be created, so any one of them will be created. Okay, that's actually simple. So if the user is not authenticated, we are just providing these, else we are making, yeah, showing register and login. So we have this appropriate URL for that. Register means it will search in this name, it will log in, register, and so on. So up next we'll be implementing, starting with the groups. So in this video we're going to see the entity relationship diagram. So this will be the backbone of our database. So we need to make sure how the tables are implemented in a good way that will ensure that the project will work as intended. So we have 5 tables actually. So user, profile, post, group, and category. So every table contains its own details, and it may be related to another table in many fashion, like one-to-one, many-to-one, many-to-many, and so on. Okay. There will be 4 kind of relations: one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-one, and many-to-many. So we'll see why we have one-to-one and many-to-one now. So first we have this user table. So as I said, Django provides a default user table, right? So this is the user table that Django provided, and it has username. Okay, so it's going to save the username of that particular user. So every table contains primary key. So this is just ID. So primary key is used to uniquely identify an object. So assume that we have a user table and there are hundreds of users. Okay, so there may be possibility that 2 users might have the same name. Okay, so but if we want to perform an operation, we have to perform only on one user. For example, say that the user 1 has transferred some money to that account, and the same named user should not be affected by that, right? So for that we can uniquely, we have to uniquely identify each row in a database table. So in a table, so id provides that it is like a serial number, so no serial number will be same. The main aim of a database, I mean table, is no two rows should be same. Every row should be unique, at least in some, at least in one field. Okay, so that's why id ensures that it is no matter what, no matter the user will have the same name or they live on the same street, so even though they are same, the id will be different. Okay, so first we have this relationship with profile. So one user is going to have one profile, right? And not one profile does not belong to many users, or many users, and one user does not have many profile. One user is going to have exactly one profile that has some, yeah, that has some profile picture, description about him, and so on. So that's why we are saying this table is related to the profile table as one to one. Okay, and so this profile table contains this relation user one to one. Okay, so this is where we specify, and about is the character field, user profile is the profile picture, and group is which group the user has enrolled. Okay, so we are storing this information in this group. So user might have, there are in the introduction we saw that there are, I think, 8 groups that I created, and that user has, I think, he was in 6 groups. So those kind of information will be in this detail. Okay, so next we'll see post. Okay, so assume that the user is in a group, and now the user can post multiple posts. So inside one group, he can post like one post only, or he can post 10 posts, 100 posts, and so on. So that means the profile table is related to this post table as one to many. So one profile can post hundreds of posts, any number of posts, right? So one profile is going to have multiple posts, but we cannot say that one post will belong to multiple users, right? It's wrong. So one post can be, I mean, one post can be assigned to one profile, and the same profile can be, I mean, another post can be created by the same profile. So that's why we have this as one to one, one to many. Okay, so we have this group, so every post will be in a group. It's because, yeah, we'll see that, and many profile is many to one, right? So from this profile, from this post table point of view, it is implemented to this profile as many to one. From this profile point of view, it is one to many. So that's why this means one to one, whereas this kind of symbol means many. So this many side and one side, likewise here as well. This is one, this is one. Okay, so one profile is going to have many posts, so that's why we have this. And we have a title for a post, description, and user file. They would have uploaded some PDF or anything, and picture as an image field. Okay, now we have this group. Okay, so one group can have multiple posts. So there may be many users who are post. One user may post 100 posts, another user may post 10 posts, and so those kind of, so that's how one group has this one to many relationship with this post. Okay, and it contains category. So every group has some category associated with it. For example, this group is a space group, tech group, startup group, and so on. And it has a name, and it has a group profile picture. We can have many other additional information if you want, but I'm just going to have these 3. And finally, category. So category is just simple field. I'm going to create category like tech. I can create category like something else. So that means one group, many groups can have many categories. So that's how we say it. So this group may have categories like space, tech, and so on, whereas another group can also have space, tech as categories, and it may have another space as well. So if I say one category belongs to many group, that means like if I have space tech in one group, that space tech cannot be used in another group as a category. So we don't need those kind, right? So we need to say that many groups can have many categories, whereas many categories can be used as in multiple groups as well. Okay, so I think this ER diagram is clear. So this is exactly what we are going to build with models.py. Yeah, you won't have any of these code. So these are the 5 tables that we are going to implement. So these are 4 tables, but this table I'm going to get from the Django. Okay, so user table, profile, groups, and so on. So assume that user is a table. User is a table that Django has already provided. So username it has by default. Okay. So it is just like a class that we have similar to this, right? So I'm going to paste this profile up here. Okay, so that's it. So user is a table that contains similar these kind of fields like username, and username is a character field and so on. So we don't need to worry about user. So profile. So profile is related to this user table as one to one. So that's why we're saying like models dot one to one field user. So we are passing this user as one to one field. So now this table profile is related to this user, and this is the user object that this profile is going to hold. Okay, and on delete equal to models dot cascade means, so whenever this user has been deleted, the profile also which is associated with the user will be deleted. It's because we don't need that profile anymore, right? If we delete this user, otherwise there will be kind of null values in the database tables that will be lying around. And next we are providing, let's first finish this profile picture. So user profile is the image field. So for image field we need to have pip install below, so that's how it works. And we need to provide the folder in which the user profile will be uploaded. So whenever the user is uploading an image, or if we are just showing the profile, this will say, so it should search for in this directory, or it should upload, the user file should be uploaded in this directory. So if you remember, I told that media files is where the user uploaded files will reside. So inside this media it will automatically create a folder called user profile, and here it will just yeah, paste the user profile here. Okay, and if the user does not have any profile picture, I'm going to make a default profile picture for him. So inside this media folder I have this default.jpg, right? But this is a directory. So if I want to save this default inside this user profile, I will say user profile slash, but I would like to have this here as well, here only. Okay, so that's why I have this. And about is a character field that says something about the user, so I have this max length as 250. And group, so group is just a one-to-one field. Okay, so I provided it in a string because the group, I have defined this class later after this profile. So if I use this group here, it will say group is not defined. So it's like a forward declaration. It's not actually declaring, but just mentioning that group is available later on in the code. So it is a many to many field, I told you, right? So group is yeah, I think it's supposed to be group here. Okay, so yeah, I made a small mistake in the ZR diagram, which is it is supposed to be attached to this group. Okay, each profile is going to have multiple groups, so I just need to get this group here. The post will not have, yeah, the post will also have, so I need to make this as a connection to many to many. Okay, assume that there's a connection with this. Okay, so there's not post involved, but instead of post we are just making many to many with this group. So we can have this post, but the problem is the post is going to be in one group, attached to one group, right? So we can say that the profile is going to be in many groups, so many users can be in many profiles, right? Okay, so so that means essentially that the user does not need to be is not restricting the user to be in one group. So if we provide the many to many relationship, you can ignore this one. We provide many to many relationship to this group, that means many profile can be in many group, and many groups can contain multiple profiles. So that's how we have it. Okay, so with that done, we're just having this string. So whenever this profile is queried, we are returning the user.username. So self.user contains the username, right? So user table contains this username. So just for printing, you don't actually need to have this as well. but it just provides clarity. Okay, next we are just getting category. So categories, it just contains this one field category, and it's going to be a character field. So I can create character, tech, and so on. So group. So group, as I said, it contains many to many with category, and it contains its own fields like character field, name of the field, and so on. And likewise post. So post is going to be having profile as well. Yeah, we can have profile, but I forgot to just pass this many to many. So each post will have a user. So okay, so each post will have a user, and that user will his information will be displayed whenever the post has been created by him. So that's why there's also a connection between the profile is also connected to this post, and group is also connected to this post, but I forgot this one little thing. Alright, so the post contains group as a foreign key. So foreign key means many to one. So that's how we say many to one, and profile also a foreign key. Title, username, user file is just a file field, and we want to upload it in documents. So that's why it will upload it in documents. Okay. So it will actually create a folder itself, and it will upload it there. And description is just a group description, and so on. So picture is the image field. It is uploaded to new images, just like profile picture, but the profile picture of the group will be in group profile, the user profile will be in user profile directory, right? And actually we can actually have all this in a single folder, but just to keep things organized. Okay, so now we have this model ready. So with that said, what we need to do is, so whenever a user has been created, we need to create a form. I need to create profile for him. Okay. That means user is provided, so the registration form will create only the user. Okay, so it will get the username, password, and password too, and fill this user form. But one user definitely has to have one profile, right? Then only he can just post. So we are not relating this user to post or group. We are relating profile only to groups and posts, so on. So we need to create automatically a profile for that user whenever this user has been created. So yeah, so to say that, just going to have this in the group app. Okay, we're having this signals.py. Okay, so this will be triggered whenever we are just performing in an action. Okay, so here I'm going to say whenever whenever this user has been created, it should fire up this signals.py and create a profile. So here I'm just creating it. So we need to import a few things. So first we need to import this receiver and post save, and the two classes that we are going to create. So that means we need to create this profile whenever this user has been created. Okay, the additional things are post save and receiver, which we'll implement now. Okay, so this means I'm using a function called create profile, and above it I'm creating a decorator at receiver. So it says post save and sender equal to user. So that means whenever this receiver gets a signal from this user after saving, so post save means after saving, so whenever the user instance has been sent, after saving, this will be sent to this function. Okay, the receiver then passes the sender the instance created is a boolean and the keyword arguments if necessary. So if the profile has been created, so if the user has been created successfully, we are just going to say profile.objects.create user equal to instance. That's it. Okay, profile.objects.create will create a profile, and we need to say which user this profile belongs to. So we have this user already. Okay, so it is a parameter, and we have this instance already. So this passed as a parameter to this function by the decorator, and we are saving it. Okay, so whenever a user is created, a profile is also created, and we need to say whenever there's a change in the user table, we need to also save the profile, right? So that's why we have to say instant.profile.save. So we don't need to actually provide the instance here because this profile is already associated with the user now, but we are just saving whenever this user has been updated, right? So that's why we have this. And one more thing is we have to have this in the apps.py. So in the apps.py we have to import the group app.signals. Okay, so this will actually make it work. Okay, so that's with that ready, we can actually move to the profile. So I'm going to log in. So I'm going to profile. So while creating this, this will actually create a default profile picture for me. And here we are just uploading these things. Okay. So now let's go to profile. So I can use this choose file. I can edit this old in old options and so on. Okay. So let's go to profile views. So first let's have a look at the URLs. Not this app URLs, the main project URL. Okay, group urls.py. Alright, so whenever the profile request comes in, we are executing this profile view. Okay, so let's move to the view. So this view has this profile function. Okay, so similar to creating a registration form, we are creating a profile update form. Okay, so as I said, there will be two occurrences. So first the profile will be rendered with the old information. Okay, but yeah, and then if I try to update anything, if I try to update, this information will then be passed to here, and that time it will be post. So I'm going to create this form. Okay, so it should be, yeah, it is actually very simple. So in the forms.py, so this is the profile update form. So in the profile update form, we know that the profile model already contains user, profile, and about, right? So it is going to display only these two fields. So the user should be able to change the profile picture and this about. We did not have this flexibility for him to change groups here. We can if we want, and user we should not give it. Okay, it means that he is changing for the user. We should not give permission to actually change the user. So for that, in the forms.py, we are creating a form, and this is a model form. Okay, so model form is any form that is going to get the fields from a table, from a model. So this model contains many fields, 4 fields, but I'm going to show only 2 fields to the form. So that's why I'm saying fields equal to user, profile, and about. Okay, so with that said, we have now rendered it to the HTML. So first time there will be a profile update form. So this is just, okay, so profile update form is going to have already this information pre-filled, right? So it has the current default information it's showing me. So if I create an empty form, this field will not have been, would not have been pre-filled. Okay, so that's why, so assume that I'm just having this as the else condition, and if I save and run it, it's loading. Now I can see that my information is not pre-filled, right? So I need to pass the instance of which the profile belongs to. So request.user is the user object, so the current user information lies here. So if we can use this username and so on. So we can also query the profile, so it's kind of like backwards. Okay, so request.user, so in the models.py, this user is having this user object, right? So we're just using this user, and this profile, I mean this has a profile associated with it. So we can have profile, and then we can also access profile dot, for example, if you want to print profile request dot user dot profile dot about, it will print the about page. So request dot user, through this profile table, it's going to get this about option. So this is the about that I was talking about. Okay, so this information will be available with these kind of details. So we're just passing the profile and it will take care of itself by pre-filling all these details. So I need to save it. Yeah, if I save and run it, it will just have the pre-filled values. So first time we're just rendering this profile and we're just passing it to the context. Okay, and in the HTML we'll just use this, yeah, we'll just reference this p form. So in the profile HTML I have nothing but this profile rendering. Okay, so I'm just creating a content here. Okay, so these are just the information. So I'm providing this p form, right? So in the profile this is the form that it has. Okay, this is the form, this is the information about the user. So user has the username, user.email, user.profile.about, everything will be here. So one more thing is I am going to render the form here. So this is the form and I said it should need a CSRF token, and I'm just rendering this form as crispy. So this I just mentioned in this p form, right? So next time when the user hits on the submit button, like the update button, this will be executed. So I'm just updating the profile. Okay, so profile update form, I'm just calling this profile but with this data, the updated data, and here I need to pass three things. So request.post contains arguments like this text. So if I have this, if I change this argument, it will be available in request.post of text. I think the name is about. Okay, it will be available in this dictionary. But since we are using image files, we also need to provide request.files. So image files and document files, some other except text, these files will be saved in this request.file. But for register we did not have those kind. We need just use request.post, right? It's because we are not uploading any files in this request.post, I mean register page. But if we have the flexibility for the user to select the profile picture while here, we can provide this. Okay, we are using this current instance to which the user belongs. Okay, now if the form is valid, we are actually saving it and printing the profile is successfully updated, and we are making it home. So whenever I click the update button, you'll just show this and redirect me to home. So return redirect home. Okay, so that's how this profile works. And one more thing, we need to have this form. So whenever we are creating a form, we need to have this end type as multipart and form data, multipart/form data. Otherwise the image will not be uploaded. Image files or any other files. This might seem like a simple problem, but this will actually create a lot of headache while debugging. So we need to provide the M type if our form is going to accept any images or files. Okay, so that's about this profile. So now we're just implementing this home and groups. Okay, so I have already, so in the admin localhost 8000/admin, in the admin page, I think new user, okay, so in the admin page we can create any of these profiles, categories, any of the things we have mentioned in this models of PY. Okay, but for that we need to have this admin.py. So in the admin.py we have this by default, and so in order to make all these groups visible here, so for example I show you what I can do. I can create a new group or create a new post from here itself. So I can add a new post and I can select the group for which the post is going to belong, new user, any user I can select, and I can just upload a post directly from this admin page. So a super user can do everything. So we can just say what the super user is going to see. So admin.site.register group, profile, category, and post. So we're just getting every table from our database. So that's why it has these 4 tables. Okay, so I have already created few groups. Okay, that's why here it is showing me all the groups, and these are the groups that I've enrolled, and these are the groups that I have not yet enrolled. So there are many groups that I did not enroll. So because this is a new user, right? But before that I was in a different login when I was in this account. Okay, so in this groups page will show me all the groups that I have not yet enrolled in. As you can see, this new user profile, if I see new user, right, I'm not enrolled in any group. So if I want to enroll in all the groups, I'll just say save. Oh, about some about. Now if I go to the groups, I don't have anything here because I've joined in every group. In my home, I can see all the groups that I have joined. So that's what we are just doing in this home and profile page. Okay, so let's go to the views. So in the home page, this is just a home page. Okay, so whenever there is let me close everything. Models.py, admin.py, signals, group user. Okay, so I think we have implemented every URL patterns here. We can have every URL patterns here itself, but this means every app is going to have different URL patterns. So this type of URL patterns will be common to every apps, because every app is going to have a login page, profile page, right? So that's why. But app specific URLs, I have this in the group app.urls, right? So in the group app I have this group list, add, post, and so on. Okay, so whenever an empty path comes, we're just executing this home. So empty path means just the domain name, and the name of this view is name, the home. So in this home page, it's quite simple. What I'm doing is I'm just getting the users, I'm just getting whatever the users group that he has enrolled in. So for that we have to do a few things. So let me open python manage.py shell. So here I'm going to say how we are going to perform these query operations. Okay, so from Django we are going to need every table. So django.contrib.models import user, and from group app.models import everything. So assume that I'm going to get the first user. So first I'm going to get every users that has been ever created. So it will return a query set that has objects like user, test, new user, and so on. So in order to get the first user, I can say first. So this time it will not return me a query set, it's just an object. Okay, it's because of the profile object. I can have this condition like get id equal to 1. Okay, and it will return me this. So id equal to 2 means it is this user, id equal to 3 means this user. So I'm going to say which group that the user has enrolled in. So I'm going to be pretending that I'm this user. So this user has a profile, right? So user.profile, and inside the profile, let me open the models.py. So inside this profile there is a group. So group, so the group contains categories. Okay, so I'm going to see, let me just first use group.all. Oh, I need to save this, right? So first, if I get this user, I need to save this user in a variable. So I'm going to say user equal to, and now I'm just going to execute this. Okay, so user has a profile and he is in groups. So I'm going to get all the groups that he has enrolled in. So that means that the user is in group like science for all, tech, and space updates, right? So that's how we're just querying them. That means user has a profile, and this profile has a group, and this group contains all the categories. We can use like all. We can also get the categories and the name of the group. For example, group dot all dot first will return me this first group. Okay, right, and I can get the name of the group, and I think group profile URL. So group profile dot URL. So this will return me the URL for the image of the group picture. So this is kind of like a going through. So user contains profile, and profile is associated with group, and group there are multiple groups. Okay, yeah. So this is a query set. So with this group I am getting the first query set, which is this, and this group. So this is the group, right? So I can access any of these: name, group profile. So first contains name and also group profile, and I can get the category that the group of the group as well. So category dot all. So it is, the group is associated with the science. We can see that this group is in science category, right? So that's how we are just going to query them. So for that, in the view, I'm getting the user groups. So every group the user is involved in, and I'm saving it in groups. So this is a query set. So I'm going to pass it as a key. So this is a kind of list. Okay. So in the HTML, home.html, I'm going to iterate through this list and create a card for everything. And yeah, that's it. So in the home.html, so I'm just, yeah, these are just for additional information. So, but what I have is group name. Okay. And I have this group image in this group dot group profile dot URL as I mentioned. So this is just a link, right? So it will just get the exact URL like this. So I'm passing it as image tag, and it will render this image. Yeah, and the card body contains category. So category means the group contains the category, right? So group contains this category, and in order to get every category I need to use category.all. I don't need to use this method called like this double brackets like I used it here, but here I just need to provide, but in this Django template we don't need to provide this kind of double parenthesis. So since this query is a list, so we know that this is a list, right? So there may be many categories for a particular group, so that's why it is list, and I need to in turn loop through this list to get the category of it. Okay, so for now you can just ignore it, but this group is, whenever I click on that, it will go to, okay, I need to run the Python again. Exit. Not sure. So since I have this, yeah, I'm saying is, so whenever I click on the group name or the card, it should go to the detailed description of that view. So it's a different URL. Okay. So I'm going to do this, and yeah. So whenever I click on this group name, it will open this group for me. So up next we'll be talk about that, and the two links are the category. So if I click on the science, it will show me all the groups that are related to only science. Okay. So first let's see this group list. So here it contains all the groups that the user has not enrolled in. So for example, if I leave this startup group, and now if I see the groups, it will show me the startup sum. It's because I have not enrolled in the course yet. So now to do that kind of operations, yeah, this is the group list. Okay, so I'm just filtering. So there will be many groups, right? So filtering is just a similar method. So assume that there are 10 groups, and within that group I'm going to get the user enrolled groups. Okay, so here the request.user.profile.group all contains all the groups that the user has ever enrolled, and I'm going to negate this. So in order to perform this negation, and for example AND operation, OR operation, XOR operation, and so on, we'll need to import this from Django.models import queue. So filter is kind of like a get. So here we use the get, right? If I use filter id equal to it will provide the same result, but it will provide multiple results. So for example, if I say um, you get all the users that ends with a name equal to from test, right? So that might fetch a lot of users, but get provides only one user, because id equal to 2 means it is going to provide only one user. But if I use filter, there are chances that it will it will actually use it in a list of users, but the list may contains few users and so on. Yeah, so filter will return many objects, but our get will return only one object. Okay, so we're just using this id in. So id in means request.groups contains every user, but if the particular group is in this user enrolled course, I'm negating that. I'm showing only the groups that are not in the user. Okay, so yeah, that might sound confusing, so I'll just run the shell again. I need to have another user, and from group app dot models import star. Okay, so if I am use user dot objects dot get id equal to 1, it will return me an object. But if I use filter, it will return me a query set, but this need not be a single answer. Okay, so that's the difference. So what I'm doing is I'm getting this request.profile.user.all. So assume that I'm getting the user, and I'm getting request dot I'm sorry user dot profile dot group dot all. So this will return all the groups that has user enrolled, but in order to get the groups that the user did not enroll, you need to provide this. So group dot objects dot all contain all the groups. Okay, so you can see this list is bigger than this list. Okay, so while iterating, it will go and check if the user if this group in this list, is this group in this list, is this group in this list. Okay, so whichever group is not in this list, for example the startup zone is not in the list, right? So then this condition will actually fail, and we are just getting the negation. So we know that it will return every other groups that the user enrolled except this group. So we're just negating it, right? So it will return me all the groups that the user did not enroll. So in our case, I did not enroll only in this group. So for that, we are just using this queue, which will be able to perform Boolean operations, and I'm now passing these groups to this group list.html. Okay, so in this group.html, and yeah, it is exactly similar to this home.html, except that I have this join option. Okay, so join is, where is it? Oh, sorry, group list.html. So here we have this join URL, right? So I have this button. So whenever I click on the button, I want it to execute this join function. Okay, so whenever this button is clicked, this view will be gone. So in the urls.py, it will go to this view. Okay, and I need to pass a URL. So if I am going to join this group, it will actually go to this URL. That is, it is go to URL like join slash group number 3. So this is the URL that will go. So we need to say, so we cannot just say join, right? We need to know which group the user is trying to join. There may be multiple groups here. So for that, we are just providing this primary key. So that's an integer, right? So we're just accepting an integer, and we are just naming it as pk, and this will execute this views.join. So in the views, there is a join. It's a tiny method. So here I'm just adding the user to the group. So user.profile contains and group that contains everything, right? So in this group is a many to many field, and it can accept an add argument. I mean, it's not an argument, it has an add method. So here I'm just adding this user to a group called this primary key. Okay, for example, I can say group dot objects dot get id equal to 1 or 2 So this will give me this group object, right? So this group object I'm providing this, yeah, this group object I'm providing it here, and then it will just add it to this group's URL. So right now this user has this much of yeah, groups, right? So if I pass this as a add argument, this group will be added to this list. So now the group is yeah, the user is added to the list. Now I'm redirecting him to the group detail of one. So this is just the opening. So if I join it, it will open me this. Yeah, it will. I need to run the Python. Okay, so I'll see that. So after I join that, we are just redirecting it to the group's home main page. So as soon as I joined, I click on the join button and this group main page, which is in the group detail. So there's also a leave button here. So if I press the leave button in this group detail, I'll come to the group detail later on, but I'll just show how the leave button works. So leave button means you're just having this leave button here, right? So now I click on it, this will execute this function. So like adding the group, we're just removing the group. So we just got the group information, and user.profile.groups all contains this information, right? So we're just removing the group name from this list, and then we are redirecting him to the group list, so which is this page. Okay, so since we have these basic operations ready, now we can implement the group detail. So whenever I click on the group, it opens the information. So this is just all the groups that the user has enrolled, exactly this this kind of these exact groups. So I'm just like, I'm sorry, so I'm just having it here so that the user can have my same access. So it's loading. Okay, so here we have this quick access. So if I go to this group, it will open this group. If I click here, it will open this group. If I click here, it will open this. So it contains all this as the home page does. And now we are in the group detail. Okay, so group detail, as you can see, if I click on, if I am in this group, it will have this ID of 1. So this group has the ID of 1. So if I open the tech group, if it has ID of 2, space updates should have 4. I think I deleted a group. Oh, the third group is a startup group, so I am not enrolled in that group. So fifth is the group, and sixth is the group. So what it does is it gets the primary key. The URL is just the same, but the primary key varies. Okay, so that's what we are going to build. So we can see the group detail accepts a primary key and execute this function. So let's go to the group detail. So this is the one. So here we have this information. So group.objects that get yeah, user group means that the user enrolled. So this, for this information, we have this request.user.group.all, which is exactly like the home page. Okay, and then we are getting the post the group has. So in the signs for all, we have all the posts which are created in this group, right? So for that, we are going to get post.objects.filter group equal to pk. So we know that this group detail is going to receive a primary key. So this is the primary key. So for this is the primary key. So for that particular group, yeah, for that particular group, we are getting the post for that user. So in a models.py, we have this post, right? So post contains this group. So whatever group we provide, it will provide all the posts within that group. So here I have the posts here. Okay, so I have all the information from this, and I'm just going to render it here. Posts, and ignore these two forms for now. I'll just say, and user groups. So user groups will be rendered here, and group will be all the group description like profile picture, profile, group name, and so on, and yeah, and the posts within the group. So I'm going to the group detail.html, and here I just rendered the group name. So group contains the group name, right? and science for all is the group name, profile picture, and I have it as a card. So here I have all the post. So post is a list, right? Okay, so I can, yeah. So if I use post.object.filter group equal to 1, it will get all the post for the first group. So if I have this group equal to 4, so what I'm doing is I'm getting the post. So post in the models.post, we have this profile information, which means profile of the user who has created the group. So since we have this information, we can access profile dot username and so on. So with that, uh so with that, we are able to get the profile picture of the user, profile name of the user, and this uh, profile, I mean post dot title, post dot description, and post dot user file, post dot picture, and everything we are rendering. But this post does not have a picture, right? And it does not have a file. So in the group detail, what you're doing is we're just, yeah, ignore this form for now. Okay, so we're creating a card. So this is a card, and here we are getting the post.profile.user.username. So that's how it is showing this, and the profile picture. So post.profile.userprofile.url. Okay, so yeah, that's, we are kind of moving towards the profile. So post contains profile, and profile contains user, and user contains username. So we're kind of moving towards the profile. Post contains profile, profile contains user profile, and yes, and user contains username, and but profile picture is already directly available in this user, your profile, right? So that's why we don't have it. Okay, so I'm just getting the post dot description here. Post dot title I have already filled it. Post dot description, post dot user file. So I'm just iterating every, so this is a post, right? I'm using this for loop for post and posts. I'm getting the first post and getting, filling the profile details, information, and so on. Okay, okay, so now if I click on this user, it will show me the profile for that user. So for that, what you're doing is we are just making a link here. So the full card header is wrapped inside a link, and it will go to profile detail. Okay, profile detail, and we are passing the ID of that user. Okay, so if I say, it will say profile detail 1. So that means we are just seeing the profile whose ID equal to 1. Okay, so it will just be similar. So it will have profile picture, and it will accept an int as primary key. And here, so we're just getting the profile of that particular object. Okay, and we have this in a context, right? So in the profile detail HTML, we're just getting the profile dot username, profile dot user dot email, okay, and profile dot about, and the profile picture will be in this tag, profile dot user profile dot url. Okay, we should not give the user profile, it's an image field object, but URL contains the path to the image. So if I open it in new tab, it will say media user profile and the name of the image. Okay, okay, that's what. And so we are just rendering with this. Now we just need to create a post, and we can add a comment. Okay, I can add a comment, it will be updated here. Okay, so for that, we know what to do. We need to create a post form. So for this, we are creating a post form, right? It's because in the models.py, the post contains yeah, profile, I mean title, user file, description, and picture. So that's what we are doing: title, description, user file, and picture. Okay, so we are in the forms.py. Where is the forms.py? Yeah, we are creating a post form, and we know that we are going to take the model, and label is, I don't want that. Yeah, this is the comment form. Yeah, ignore this for now. Yeah, this is the post form we are talking about. I will paste it here. So we need to show only title, description, user file, and picture, right? It has, this has many fields: group, and many others like foreign key profile and so on. So we don't need to show this. So we need to have this forms in our picture. So in the group, in the group detail, yeah, we're just passing this form. So in the views that file, we created a new form here. Mm, yeah, yeah, this new form, right? I'm just passing it. So post form, sorry, post comment form is this form, post form is this form, the where I can upload images. So post form, I'm just creating from this forms.py and I'm rendering it in this form type. So just like registration page, it's no different at all. Mm, where is it? Yeah, here. So here I'm just having this post form and I'm passing it as crispy. So what I'm doing is so this time I'm changing the action. So by default, if I have a form and I click on submit, it will go to the same URL. But in this case, I want it to go to a different URL before coming here. Okay, just like I have the join method, right? I made it go to a different URL and I removed from the URL and removed from the database and I redirected to the same URL. So whenever I fill this form and necessary details are filled and I click on submit, it will execute add post. Okay, so I have this add post which will receive a primary key of what I'm going to add. Okay, group.id, so which group I'm going to add this post. Okay, so in the views.py I have this add post. So here I have this post form, and since I'm uploading images and files, we need to say that n type equal to multipart or form data. Okay, so since we are doing the files as well, we need to use request.files. So now we have this form. Okay, so if the post form is valid, so if the all the details are correct, we are not saving to a database yet. So before saving, we need to actually mention what profile the user, I mean who is creating the post and to which group the post is being created, because in the forms.py I have only 4 information, right? It does only know title, description, user file and picture. It does not know these two properties, group and profile, but the user should not fill these. Okay, we should fill these programmatically. So that's why we are getting this form without saving it. Okay, but we are just adding a few things before saving this. Okay, so post form, we're just kind of having it a different name and we're just getting the group. So group, we just passed it here as primary key, right? So to which group we are adding this post. So that's why I added this group. And profile means which profile, the who created this post. So this logged in profile created this post, right? So we're using request.user.profile, and now we are saving it, and after saving we are just redirecting it to the same page, this exact same page. So if I submit it, it will go, it will compute these and it will redirect me. So now if I have this will be entered. So that's how. So comment form is also exactly similar. Yeah, it's actually very same. So I use this same model, and but now I'm showing only title. So whatever, so comment is also a post but with only title. So the whatever the user is typing here, it will be saved as post. So I don't want the label to say title. So for that effect, I'm just saying title. So I'm just rendering it here. Yeah, I'm creating a new post called post comment form, right? Because the name of the form is post comment form. So I'm just rendering this post comment form in this HTML. Okay, so this has the same URL as add post, so which I just talked about. Yeah, this post. So it has only title, right? There's no image description, so we don't actually need this, but this is for the adding post, creating post section. Okay, so now if I create it, it'll just be saved here. Okay, so most of it is complete. So now what we are going to do is, so let next video we're just seeing how to filter it based on categories. Just going to implement this category. So whenever I click on some category, it will show groups that are belonging to only category, and also it will keep track of which groups I have joined and which group I have not joined yet. Okay, so before that I'm going to show you so whenever I open the group detail, so I have this create post. So this is just a JavaScript. So whenever I click on the create post, it will not show me this function. So I thought I want to show that. So this is the form. Yeah, this is the form, and I have this ID called form tag. So I'm just enclosing this form tag, and I have the style display equal to none. So in the JavaScript I have the script file. So I have a function that will be executed. So that will be document. So that does document.getElementById. So I'm getting the form tag, okay, and I'm storing it as X. So if the user has clicked it, that means this function is activated. So if the function is already in block mode, so which means it is being displayed, I want to hide it, or if it is being hidden, I want to make it as block. Okay, so it's because the style.display equal to none, right? But if I want to make it block, it will not be hidden. So that's why whenever I click on it, it will be. So this file, we have this form, and so since we have two types of form, that's why we provided a different function. So in order to avoid confusion which form sent the method.post, so we have this as a different URL, and we dealt it over there. We can actually make this in a single form if you want to, but I thought this would be more neat. So in order to implement the categories, first we need to see that the models.group contain categories. So I'm going to get first group. So groups.objects.all contain many groups. I'm going to get the first one. Okay, so in the first one I have this group.id, group.name, and so on. So category, if I try to print the category by itself, it will show me this many to many field. So I want to say dot all. Okay, so since I have science category, but I want to get the category of multiple categories to just have it as an example. Okay, this startup zone has this. Okay, so I'm going to query based on the startup zone. I think it's id equal to 3. Get id equal to 3. Yeah, okay, so this has multiple categories. Okay, so that's why I am rendering it in the HTML. So while rendering in the group detail, I think it's in the home. Yeah, I think, yeah, here I have this. So I'm iterating through this for loop. So it has two categories, right? So that's why I'm iterating through this group.category.all. So group is this one which I passed it in the context, and category.all. So I have science and startup. So everything has a link. So this link, so for example, this link is associated to cat list 1, whereas this link is associated to cat list 3. Okay, so that's why each link has its own group. So while I'm rendering this will be having a for loop of cat, and for the first time cat will be this, and for the second time cat will be this one. So while doing that, I have this id as cat id. So whenever I click on this id, I have associated URL called cat list, and I want to go to this cat.id. So that's why when I click on it, it will go to cat list and 1. So this time it will show all the groups that are in science category. And if I click on startup, only one group is there. So what happens in this cat list when I pass this category of that group? So for that we have to go to this views, and cat list. Okay, so here I'm just getting all the groups, okay, that the user that the category is equal to pk. Okay, so getting also 3 is the pk, and if I want to get all the groups, where I just say groups dot objects dot get, I'm sorry, filter. So this is going to have multiple categories, right? Category equal to, I think, 3, so 1. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm getting all the groups that are belonging to this science category. So category for science, so science has a category of 1, so I'm passing category equal to 1. Okay, and so it returns multiple objects, right? So science category will be in many groups, so I cannot use get. So get will actually try to get only one, one object, so it returns an error. It says get returned more than one group, it returned 2. So that's why we need to use filter and give it a category. So filter of science, that means it will give all the groups that are belonging to science. Okay, so that's why I am doing here. So cat list of 1 means it says science, so I'm just rendering all the groups here. So leave, I'll just say in a bit. So I'm just rendering cat list.html, and I'm passing this groups that are in in this group. So in the cat list.html, so it is just the same thing. We're just rendering the group in a card iteratively. So for group and groups, we're just rendering. So the thing is, we have to say which group the user has joined. If the user is in the group already, we're just going to say him leave option, or else we are just making him join. So this is the condition. If group, so this is a group, right? So science for all is a group. If the group in user.profile.group.all, so we know that for example, user equal to user dot objects dot first. Okay, so user has it, right? So user dot profile, so dot group dot all. So this returns a list. If the current group, for example, this group is in this list, I'm going to display this leave button. Okay, so that's why if the user is in the group, I'm just rendering this leave button, and we know this leave URL, and it will pass the group.id. Otherwise, if the group is not in this list, that means that user has not joined this group yet, and I'm rendering this join button. Okay, so that's how it knows which user is going to have. So that's it in the cat list.html. It's similar to, like, home page is very similar, groups page is very similar, this category page is very similar. Only thing is we're just getting different. Home page we're just getting all the groups that the user is already in. Groups list we are just getting what the user is not already in, and category list we are getting based on the category. Okay, and yep. So just a quick revision. So this contains the home page categories, and here we are just getting all the cards that are belonging to this group. Okay, so it needs information like, so this page information needs information like the user enrolled groups for this, and the group itself, the current group, right? So the current group profile picture, name, and so on, and the posts that are associated with that group. And afterwards we need to create a post form from the form model, and this is also a post form, but this we are just uploading the title. Maybe you can use the description as well, but I just want to keep things simple, so just uploading a title. Okay, so that's covered the project.